Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this SAVE Open Day. My name is RhysGreen, and I'm the chair of the board of SAVE. And my first job this morning is to answer this question for you. What is SAVE? SAVE was founded in 2011 by partner conservation organizations from India, Nepal, and Pakistan, and also from international conservation organizations. The SAVE launch events in 2011 were hosted in Delhi by the MoAF Minister, Jairam Ramesh, and also in Kathmandu by the Speaker of the Nepal Parliament. Representatives from other vulture range states in the region have joined SAVE since then. Bangladesh and Cambodia in 2012, and Myanmar most recently in 2018. There are now 25 active formalized partner organizations, and this includes 3 umbrella organizations, which themselves include several in-country partners each. On the next slide, you'll be able to see some of the vultures that we're here to conserve. Why was SAVE founded, and what does it do to help these vultures? In 2011, the major problem for South Asian vultures was the vulture toxic veterinary drug diclofenac. It had been known about and studied in increasing detail for 8 years by then, but vulture populations were still declining. Even though diclofenac had been banned in some range states for 5 years, it appeared that the ban was still largely ineffective in many areas. The main objective of SAVE, therefore, was to work with governments to improve and better coordinate vulture conservation action in the range states. To do this, SAVE designs, prioritizes, and implements through its SAVE partners conservation actions, and then measures the effectiveness of these actions systematically, so that valid comparisons can then be made to learn from the results of doing things in different ways in different countries. SAVE also hopes to find improved funding for vulture conservation. That aim has not been as successful as SAVE's coordinating, monitoring, and planning roles so far, but SAVE's FAC committee that deals with advocacy and funding has been making good progress with improving on this. And these ideas will develop further in the near future, and particularly at the SAVE meetings that we're going to have in Kathmandu in March. On the next slide, you can see just how broad this consortium that constitutes SAVE actually is. To do its work, SAVE brought together the most active players in vulture conservation in the range states, including non-governmental and governmental bodies. And you can see from this slide the number of logos on it, the number and also the breadth of expertise of the partners and associates in SAVE, including at the bottom you can see government agencies and bodies involved. SAVE is distinct from, but has worked closely with the intergovernmental body called the Regional Steering Committee, or RSC, which was set up by the Delhi Declaration on Vulture Conservation in 2012. That's the year after SAVE was founded in 2011. The RSC has a secretariat run on a rotational basis by range state governments working jointly with the Asia Regional Office of IUCN. SAVE is a formal member of the RSC and this intergovernmental process, and is frequently asked by the RSC for technical advice on the practicalities of vulture conservation action, research and monitoring. It has been very good to see that this intergovernmental body has expanded its membership over time in parallel with the development of SAVE. Beginning in 2012 with India, Nepal, Pakistan and Bangladesh, the RSC and the intergovernmental agreement now includes Cambodia and is also looking to expand still further. The government national recovery committees of each member state who work with the RSC have developed national action plans, and these have made extensive use of ideas from SAVE's own action plan, which is called the Blueprint for the Recovery of South Asia's Critically Endangered Vultures. In a moment, Chris Bowden will tell you more about this blueprint and how the SAVE partners review and amend the actions in their action plan every year. The SAVE blueprint is also formally incorporated into the Convention on Migratory Species Multi-Species Action Plan for Vultures and has played a key role in developing the Asia inputs to the Multi-Species Action Plan for all the Old World vultures. This input is ongoing. All SAVE countries are Convention on Migratory Species signatories and are therefore duty-bound to implement the priorities laid out. Prominent among these priorities is the remaining need for effective regulation of toxic NSAIDs in South Asia. Next slide, please. So here are bottles of these veterinary formulations of these NSAIDs of several types, but prominent in the front are the bottles of diclofenac, you can see. SAVE began because actions to counter the devastating effects of diclofenac on vultures were not working well enough. Surely 12 years on from that, and 20 years after the effect of diclofenac was first discovered, we should have now solved the problem posed to vulture populations by toxic NSAID. But as the next slide shows you, we have not done that yet. This table shows why. It is based on research by Sophie Cook on the effectiveness of drug regulation policies in the vulture range states. Many SAVE members have been contributing information to Sophie's project, which will be finished and written up in March. Sophie's table shows results for 4 of the range states, and I've done that to keep the slide simple and manageable. We have the information for the other vulture range states too, and that will be in Sophie's report. Sophie's table shows us that there have been some significant regulatory successes. These are shown in the table in green. The bans on veterinary diclofenac were introduced prominently, and they're there in all 4 of the countries on this table. The bans were introduced very promptly and were also followed up with a ban on the manufacture and misuse of large vials of human diclofenac, which was a significant loophole, allowing people to use diclofenac illegally in an easy way. Vulture populations have stabilized or begun to recover in many areas beginning in the 2000s, but except in Nepal, vulture recovery so far has been very slow. Vulture toxic NSAIDs remain in widespread use, and this includes illegal use of diclofenac, but significantly also legal use of approved drugs, and they're shown on the table here, known to be toxic to vultures, despite SAVE's efforts to have them banned. Sometimes those efforts going on for over 10 years. And these cases are shown in red in this table and are therefore a cause for concern and cause for SAVE's further work on this important topic. Next slide, please. I'd like to thank all the presenters and delegates here today, and those of you listening to us too. And particularly, I'd like to welcome potential donors who we know from last year's feedback found this online open day medium a very useful way to engage with SAVE. Indeed, we know it has resulted in at least one small grant supporting work to be presented today. We hope that more such donors and grants can result from this. Most of the 25 SAVE partners will be meeting in person in Nepal in March. At that meeting, I'll be retiring from the chair of the SAVE board and handing over to Jemima Parry-Jones, who's been elected by the SAVE board to take on the task. Jemima will be talking to you later, along with Vibhu Prakash at the close of today's meeting. Next slide, please. Please do enjoy the rest of the meeting. And remember that you can always find out more detail and find more resources on SAVE's activities on the SAVE website, whose address is shown at the top of this slide. Next, we're going to hear a brief summary from Chris Bowden, who will tell you more about how SAVE works and what it's achieved in the most recent year, and the progress and concerns we have about vulture conservation in the region. And after that, we'll be hearing the details from each of the country's lead partners in turn. So thank you very much for listening, and it's now over to Chris.